Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be trying out some drugstore foundation and drugstore concealer. Both of these have insane reviews online. Some are very polarizing, some really love it, some really hate it, and I'm going to let you guys know where I fall. So let's jump right into the makeup. Before we get started, I just ask that you please consider subscribing. I really appreciate your support. And now onto the makeup. Okay, so to start this look, we are going to grab our star product. It's the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation. So this foundation claims to last 24 hours. It comes in 30 shades. It claims to be sweat-proof, transfer-proof, waterproof, and buildable. So I prefer medium to full coverage foundations, and I like the option to really build up the coverage so that some days I can be a little bit more natural and some days I can be a little bit more glam. So let's get the skin prep. What we're gonna do is grab our Shiseido serum. I'm just gonna pop that on the skin. When I am trying out new foundations, I really don't like to prep the skin with too many things. I really just like to let the foundation do quite a bit of the work and actually see what the potential of the foundation is. That way, when I go back in to use it later, I know, okay, I'm gonna have to use a more mattifying primer with this one, or I'm gonna have to like really bake for just a little bit longer with this one. So because this is our first time trying it, we're just gonna go in with a very simple serum. All right, so I got the color Caramel, and it retails for about under $10. And to test this foundation out, we're gonna do one half of the face with a Real Techniques sponge and then the other half of the face with my favorite e.l.f. foundation brush. So I love to do foundation with this brush right here. So I wanna see which one performs better, because sometimes drugstore foundations need the water and the mild absorption that a sponge gives versus a brush. So that's really gonna be what tests this out for us. Clip my hair back with these gator clips. These are amazing. If you do not have these, I highly recommend getting a pack from Amazon. They really just pull the hair up and out of the face and help you create a nice open canvas so that you can test out drugstore foundation. All right, so we're gonna do this side with the brush. It has a nice pump mechanism as well. Oh, quite a bit comes out with that first pump. So I'm gonna go straight in like I normally would. You know, I'm kind of a snob when it comes to foundations because by default, I had to be. Growing up, drugstore foundations were not what they are now. They did not have 30 shades back then, I can tell you that much. So I had to wear more high-end foundations at a young age. All right, that's the initial layer, the initial application. I had a couple of acne scars here, and I also have a mild breakout here. I don't know if it's picking up on camera, but I like the initial layer of foundation. I actually feel like it kind of reminds me a little bit of the NARS Full Coverage Radiant Foundation. That's probably not the real name, but I'm just throwing that out there. All right, now for the sponge side, we're just gonna do one layer here. A couple things to note, I have quite a bit of discoloration here and I have quite a few acne scars on this side of my face. So really this is gonna test that out for us. When I do foundation with the sponge, what I like to do is grab a little bit of a brush. The sponge, it would actually absorb quite a bit of it and I wouldn't get, and kind of put that onto the brush first to deposit it, because if I were to pump that foundation straight onto an even amount. So I'm just gonna pop that on there. And now that I feel like it's pretty spread out, I'm gonna grab my Real Techniques sponge and then start to buff it into the skin. So I've mentioned this before, sponges absorb quite a bit of your makeup, and especially when they're wet, they dilute the foundation. And that's really what happened here. I got a much more even application with the brush than I did with the sponge. And with one pump from the foundation, I was able to get this coverage. So I'm gonna try to just pump this directly onto the face. That was terrible. Okay, yeah, to get this desired coverage, which is this, I'm gonna be pumping and blending for a long time. So right off the bat, I can tell you that this is a gorgeous foundation. Cannot believe it's under $10, but I just recommend using a brush with it because I'm having to use so much foundation to get coverage, and that's kind of an annoying waste of time. So we're just gonna take a little bit more onto the brush, buff that over the area, and immediately that looks better. Like in 2 seconds, I was able to correct everything that the sponge wasn't able to. And that's a great sponge, it's just not good for this foundation. Also with this makeup look, I'm going to be doing my foundation first so that I can actually see if it oxidizes or starts to separate or does anything odd while I'm doing my eye makeup. All right, you guys, that is gorgeous coverage and it feels really nice on the skin. Something that I do worry about with drugstore foundations is that they have the tendency to get a little bit greasy, and this one does have an SPF in it. So I'm worried about flashback and I'm worried about that greasy feeling kind of coming on. So we are just gonna be on the lookout for those two things. I feel like the new way to measure whether a concealer is actually worth your money is to compare it to the Tarte Shape Tape. This concealer has been just a staple in everyone's makeup kit because it's very full coverage, it dries down matte, it really just goes above and beyond to conceal anything that you're concerned about. And you guys, everyone's been saying that the L'Oreal Infallible Full Wear is a Tarte Shape Tape dupe. So we've heard this claim before, we're not falling for it unless we test it out ourselves. This concealer has about 25 shades in its collection. It claims happens to be matte, long wearing, and it has an extra large doe foot, so looks like the Tarte Shape Tape. I went with a color that was a little bit neutral. It was hard to tell. I bought it on Amazon and, you know, I did my best, but I'll let you know my thoughts on the color once I apply it. So I got the color Cashew, and I'm just gonna pop that on underneath my eyes like I normally would. And I'm not color correcting because I want to see if this concealer conceals any type of discoloration I have enough to where I don't have to do that. So immediately upon initial application, it actually feels really good onto the skin. It feels like it exactly wherever I'm placing the product is where it's staying. I don't feel like it's moving around a lot. Now, the reviews for this concealer are very polarizing. Some people are very into it, super obsessed with it, highly recommend it, like cannot claim that they love it enough. And then some people are like, do not use this if you're over 30. It's really drying, it's really dehydrating, it cracks, it moves, it separates. And you're gonna have that because what you're doing is comparing concealer to people's skin at where they are on their skin journey. And it's just really hard to gauge that. So the best way to really discover this is to figure out if you like it for yourself. Now for this, we are gonna go in with a sponge for one side, and then we're gonna go in with our brush for the other side and compare the results. So let's do the brush side first. Tap it out like I normally would with my favorite Real Techniques blending brush. I always start on the outer edges and work my way up over my laugh lines. I want all of the brightness to kind of radiate from the center of my face. So when you notice when I'm done with my blending my concealer, you'll notice that that's kind of what the effect that I create. Actually blending out really nicely. Just to save time, I put my eyebrows on already because this review is mainly for the concealer and foundation. L'Oreal does drugstore right though. They really do. I mean, lips, eyes, now face. We'll find out how we feel about it after this, but their Pro Matte and other formulas of foundation have been good. So it's blended out. It is thick. What I would do, my instinct is to just grab a damp beauty blender and kind of pounce it over that area that I concealed to, number one, superficially absorb some of that product that I don't feel like is quite set in. But for the sake of this, we just really need to like let that sit there and do its thing for a while because we can't make any judgments yet. But it's not bad. It is not bad, you guys. For this side, we're gonna take our mini Real Techniques sponge and we're gonna do the exact same thing. I can already tell you that I like to blend out the concealer with the sponge so much more. That looks like somebody just laid a really thin layer of like caramel chiffon onto my face. I mean, it is so smoothing and so pretty. A little bit of that product goes a long way too. I probably put a little too much, which is no surprise. All right, I'm gonna use the sponge to blend out the bridge of my nose as well, since we know that we do like that better. You guys, I don't know if it's picking up on camera, but the water from the sponge and the slightly porous texture from the sponge really does well for the concealer. The brush applied the foundation better, but the sponge blended out the concealer better. So I'm gonna take the sponge and just kind of tap that over this area as well. Yeah, it's so pretty with the sponge, you guys. Oh my God. L'Oreal, you're fabulous. So I did not color correct. And I feel like if I do start to feel like I'm getting a little gray in this area, then I can just take a coral colored powder from a shaping palette like this and then correct any grayness that I have. But for now, I feel like it's actually okay and I'm okay to skip the color correction. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed. So overall consensus, we like to buff the foundation in with a brush and we like to blend the concealer in with the sponge. So I'm going to now set the face with some powder. For the sake of keeping things really routine, I don't want to mix in too many new variables that might skew the results of our foundation and powder. I want to do things like I normally would. So I'm going to take my MAC Studio Fix powder. It's a full coverage powder. Take a little brush right here and then just push that into the skin. Really pushing this product anywhere that I highlighted with that concealer. All right, now I'm going to go in and contour. I contour out of order if you guys have not noticed. I do a lot of powders before I even introduce creams. That's because I really like the hybrid that's created once I mix a cream with the powder. That might be a little counterintuitive for some. And so if that's confusing to you and it's really messing up the way that you arranged for your contour to go in your head, then don't watch this. But if you are open to trying something new, I take a little bit of the Huda Beauty Tantour and I start to chisel out my features. I really shave off the width of my face through here and then my double chin, which I have no matter what, you guys. No matter how much I work out, no matter what I'm doing, the chin is there. It's not going anywhere. All right, and now for a very important part, we're gonna take a small little duo fiber brush and then start to contour our nose, shaving off the tip and then really just pinching in the sides. So one thing I can tell you about this foundation is that although it has a matte finish, it doesn't dry down so dry to where I can't blend out products on top of it, which is really nice because if you like to layer your contours and your concealers and stuff like that, it still gives you some room to really blend out. A lot of the reviews were like, this dries down and it's miserable, and I just don't. I'm not finding that. I'm not finding that at all. All right, I'm gonna take whatever's left over on my brush from the contour and then just kind of push that into the crease. All right, we're gonna set the contour on the face with another Studio Fix powder. This is NC50. I'm just gonna like lightly buff that over those contoured areas. This kind of serves as my contour, but then also my bronzer. But I don't actually use a separate bronzer, which I could. There's nothing wrong with it. I just personally like to use products that I can double up as like contour and bronzer. Get the job done. All right, now it's time to bake. So let's grab our favorite baking powder. It's the Huda Beauty. Now this has the tendency to really mattify products, so we are just going to be really careful to not apply too much because we want to see if the concealer and the foundation actually go to work for us, and we don't want the powder to carry the flag for us here. So right here on my lash lines, which I don't know if it's picking it up, but I do start to see a little creasing. So we're going to set a little bit more loose powder there, and that's kind of where I struggle with creasing. I don't really struggle with like under eye creasing, but I do struggle with my lash lines like really betraying me. So I'm just going to kind of have that stem from the nostril down the side of the nose, and then we're going to hope that that doesn't continue to move. I'm going to take a little powder too, and then just like take some underneath this area, but I don't take it back into my hairline because I don't want to draw attention to this part of my face. We just contoured that off, so we're just doing a little bit right here. You kind of just want it to like fade into the abyss. You don't really want it to have like a defined stop. So now to move on to eye makeup, something I have noticed, irregardless of setting my eyes with a little bit of loose powder, there is a little creasing from the concealer. It's not an excessive amount to where I think that the entire makeup look is doomed, but it is something to take note of, that the concealer and the foundation that I did place on my eyelids is creasing slightly, and a small amount of that is to be expected. So I'm going to take my MAC paint pot in the color Quite Natural. It's a very neutral brown. The same brush I used to apply my contour with, I'm just going to take that and kind of like buff that right next to the lash line and then into the crease. All right, for eye makeup today, we're gonna take our big fluffy blending brush, and then we're gonna take the J. Tori Beauty Sassy palette. I use this quite a bit. I love it. It's just a good palette. It's got really great colors, a very nice size pan, a really good size full mirror right here, and the packaging is really chic. We're gonna take this brown right here with the fluffy brush. We're gonna pack that over where we put that paint pot down. So packing a powder product on top of a kind of creamy base is really gonna help lock it in. And now we're gonna take a fluffy brush, and with a color that's a little bit lighter than that color we put on the lid, we're gonna use that to buff. Jesus help me. Dust that off. It's a little orange there, but it's okay. We're gonna take this tan color right here and then buff that over the crease. All right, pretty safe, easy, neutral eye. Really nothing too fancy here. Let's take a pointed brush from Sephora and let's go in with this more warm brown right here and start to like carve out the corner of the eye and take it into the crease and then pull out the edge. Now with the fluffy brush that we did the crease with no additional product, we're just gonna take that and buff the edges out. All right, let's do the same thing on the other eye. You know, a lot of people when it comes to neutral eye looks, they always think like, oh, that's boring because it doesn't have a lot of vibrant colors, but some of the most artistic looks are executed with neutral colors, like, because it's not an easy thing to do. It is, I'm not saying it's easy to do a creative look with color, but that color really does carry a lot of the weight for you when it comes to a look. But with neutrals, like, your technique has to be really on point because you've got to make sure that those neutrals still have a creative edge while being soft and approachable. I love this Sephora brush because it really comes to a point so you can really get in the crease nicely. All right, let's move on to the lower lash line now. All right, for the waterline, we're going to go in with the NYX Faux Blacks pencil in a dark brown shade, and we're just going to lightly line the waterline. All right, and now we're going to take a really tiny brush. This is from the Jaclyn Hill Morphe collection. This is the JH42. We're going to take this dark brown right here and start to push this product right on top of that dark brown liner that we put in our waterline. I'm also going to take a little bit of that shadow and really just kind of take that a little bit lower than our lash line to make our eyes look bigger. All right, you guys, we have to talk about something. This concealer is creasing, and I have the Huda Beauty powder on, and that's a very absorbent loose powder. Like, that's a very heavy duty one. In fact, a lot of people don't even like it because it is so mattifying. And so the fact that I have that Huda Beauty powder on top of this concealer and it's creasing is a little bit of a warning. So it's not a bad creasing. It's definitely something I can blend my way through, but it is something worth mentioning. All right, so now we're going to take a little bit more of a brown shadow and we're going to try to buff the lighter brown shadow over the creasing to mask it and maybe give us a little lower lash line smoke. So we're going to take this warmer shade right here and push that right where that darker brown color ends. They're still creasing right underneath that line, so we're gonna have to buff that out with another warmer shade as well, and maybe add a little more setting powder just to combat that. But I don't think it's not a deal breaker because the concealer is $10, so it could be worse. All right, and that same buffing brush that we put down first to blend out the lash line on top, we're gonna take and then use that to soften up the edge and go directly over that creasing. So what that's gonna do is apply color to hide the creasing, but then the powder particles from the eyeshadow are actually gonna absorb any product there that was causing the creasing in the first place. So this kind of serves as a little double whammy. For inner corner highlight, we are going to go in with the Wet n Wild Hello Halo highlighter and blush compact. Cannot speak highly about these enough. They are mind-blowing. So I typically go in with the After Sex Glow, which is this one, but today we're going to go in with the Flash Me palette. So this has a little bit more of a rich, deeper tone, and we're just going to change things up. This is more of a rose gold highlight right here. We're going to use that to pop that into the inner corner of the eye. I took it down through this little V right here, and I do feel like even that bit did accentuate a little bit of the creasing. So we're just going to take our small little buffer brush and then buff some dark eyeshadow over that area. All right, and then that creasing is kind of bugging bugging me a little bit. I'm gonna take a flat eyeshadow brush and just take a little bit more of the Huda Beauty Banana Baking Powder and then pat it over the creasing because it is bothersome. Right, I do feel like that does help a little bit. We're also gonna put mascara on, so I'm not trying to like overly scrutinize this. Let's dust off the bake. And I'm gonna go back in with my NC50 powder, and then I always do this. I take a little bit of powder and I lightly dust over where I baked to avoid any type of flashback. All right, we're gonna skip top eyeliner and we're gonna do mascara and lashes. For mascara, we are actually gonna do this on camera because I wanna talk about the Essence Lash Princess Mascara. You guys, this mascara has 18,330 something reviews on Amazon. What? It's an $8 mascara. I got the waterproof one as well. I'm gonna pop this on. We won't do a full review on it today, but I did want to try it out for today's tutorial. You guys, I just applied mascara and I was so skeptical. I did not think I would feel this way, and I'm gonna save a lot of my comments for another video, but all I'm saying is, wow. Oh my god, like, do I even want to wear falsies today? I don't know. That's a first. Okay, so we popped on the J. Tori Wispy lashes. They come in a multi-pack, and I'll link to her website below because I used her eyeshadow and her lashes. But today, we do need to add a little eyeliner. I thought I could avoid it, but I cannot because where my eye is so curved and so almond shaped that this inner corner, I can't actually put a false lash there. I have to set them further back, but then it kind of creates this weird gap where you don't see lash or liner. So, you know, thought I could get away with it, but I cannot. So I'm gonna go in with my Benefit Roller Liner. This is the best liner, and we're just gonna tap that, fill in that gap, but we're not taking it all across the eyelid. Yes, we are taking it all across the eyelid. Went a little crazy. We thickened up the line, and now we have full-blown eyeliner on, which is, it's fine. It's okay. All right, for highlighter, we're gonna go with that Wet n Wild palette that we talked about before, the Flash Me palette, and we're gonna highlight, and then we're gonna use this rose colored as a blush. Okay, if you guys swear by Milani Luminoso blush, then this is gonna be better than that. This actually has a little more pigmentation and actually shows up on your skin more, because for me, that's not a blush for my skin tone. If you are my skin tone or deeper, maybe even a little lighter, that really doesn't do much for you. Very cute. My instinct is to go in with a matte blush and punch up the color, but we really don't need to. And I'm just gonna take my powder brush and then tap over it just to make sure that it looks a little bit more like skin. And so right now my face feels very matte and very set. I don't feel like my makeup's moving around. I don't feel like I'm gonna be chasing it throughout the day. And I feel like for drugstore foundation, we are on a good path here. You guys, I had a lip combo on and it looked terrible, so I just took it off. I think a little bit of it's still there, but we'll survive. So let's take Plum Liner from MAC. I don't know why I tried something else. This is exactly the liner I should have used in the first place. And then for lipstick, we're gonna go into Clay Crush. This is a Maybelline matte lipstick. And then back over the edges again with a little more plum. All right, you guys, let's take the hair down and actually look at this entire look in its entirety. All right, you guys, I'm gonna take this hair down and take a look at this entire combination of concealer and foundation. All right, you guys, so I chose not to set my face with the All Nighter setting spray because I just wanna see what this foundation does on its own. Right off the bat, I can tell you I'm very impressed with the coverage. I could have built it up more in areas where I have a little bit of an acne scar, but I chose not to. I just wanted to see what it did on its own, 1 or 2 layers, and I can honestly say we love the foundation with the brush and we love the concealer with the sponge. It did crease just a little bit more than I expected, so that really just can be rectified with a little more setting powder or maybe spritzing the face with a setting spray prior to applying your concealer so that it has a really nice matte base to adhere to. Other than that, I would say that I would give this foundation an A+. You guys, it is under $10. The concealer is under $10. They both come in quite a few shades. The concealer comes in 25 shades, the foundation comes in 30 shades, and you can get it on Amazon. So I highly encourage you to try this out. I was really blown away by this. I'm gonna end this video here and I won't do a full days of a wear test, but I will on my Instagram stories. I'm gonna plug my Instagram right here. If you don't follow me on there, you should. It's a very fun place to be. I do a lot of makeup and hair and lifestyle things on there as well, so it's not just YouTube. Come follow me on Instagram so you can actually see how this foundation performs over the course of the day, and I will see you guys next time.